Maya, a struggling waitress, is fired from the only job she's ever known. Feeling lost, she steps into the street, unsure of what's next. But then, a mysterious billionaire named Ethan Blackwood notices her specifically, the pendant around her neck. What happens next is more than a chance encounter. It's an opportunity that could change her life forever. But is she ready to take the leap? This should set the tone of mystery and suspense for the audience right from the start. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments. Maya's world seemed to slow down as she walked through the quiet café, her apron brushing against her legs with every step. The small, cozy place was her second home. She had spent countless hours here, serving coffee, cleaning tables, and chatting with regular customers. But today, the café felt different. The usual hum of activity seemed muted, replaced by an almost palpable tension in the air. She had felt it all day, an unease that clung to the walls, making her stomach churn. It had been building for weeks, ever since business had started slowing down. Customers had become fewer, tips had gotten smaller, and the café's future seemed uncertain. Maya wasn't naive. She knew something was coming. She had seen the signs, the way her manager, David, had become more and more distant, his eyes clouded with worry. The conversations between him and the café's owner had grown shorter, more urgent. She had overheard murmurs about possible cutbacks, and while she had hoped it wouldn't come to this, deep down she had known. "Maya, can I see you for a moment?" David's voice pulled her out of her thoughts. She turned around to see him, standing by the back office, his face as unreadable as ever. David was usually a kind, if somewhat aloof, boss. He'd never been overly friendly, but he had always treated her fairly. Now, however, he looked different, his face drawn tight, his hands trembling slightly as he motioned for her to come over. Maya's heart sank. This wasn't good. "What's going on?" she asked, though she already had a sinking feeling in her stomach. She had always given her best to the café, arriving early, staying late, and doing whatever it took to keep things running smoothly. The thought of losing this job was unbearable. David motioned for her to step inside the small office. He closed the door behind them, and for a moment there was nothing but silence. Maya stood there, heart racing, trying to read his expression. But his face was clouded with uncertainty. She could feel the weight of the moment in the air, thick and heavy, like a storm waiting to break. "Maya, you know things have been tough around here, right?" David finally spoke, his voice quiet, almost apologetic. Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She had seen the café's struggles. The place was barely breaking even, and there had been rumors of other staff cuts. But none of that had prepared her for what he was about to say. "I'm sorry, but we have to let you go," David said, his words cutting through the air like a knife. Maya felt as though the floor had dropped out from beneath her. Her breath caught in her throat, and she struggled to process what he had just said. "What?" she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mind was racing, trying to make sense of his words. "But I've worked here for years. I've done everything you've asked." David's eyes flickered with guilt. "I know, Maya, I know. You've been a great employee, you really have, but the café is going under. We're losing money, and we have no other choice." Maya's heart pounded in her chest. She could feel the familiar sting of rejection, the all-too-familiar feeling of being discarded. It had happened before when she had struggled to find work after high school, when she had barely made it through her college years. But she had always pulled through. This time felt different, though. This time, She had nothing else to fall back on. "I understand," she said, her voice barely audible. She didn't know what else to say. The weight of the situation was suffocating. But what now? David looked down, unable to meet her eyes. "We'll give you your final paycheck. If you need a reference, I'll provide one, but I'm afraid that's all we can offer right now." Maya felt a lump form in her throat, but she forced herself not to cry. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and now it was all slipping away. She didn't know what her next move would be, but she couldn't let herself fall apart now, not when she needed to be strong. She took the envelope from David, her fingers trembling slightly as she held it. "Thank you for the opportunity," she said, though the words felt hollow. She didn't feel thankful. She felt like she had been thrown away. David nodded, his expression apologetic. "I'm really sorry, Maya. I wish things were different." Without another word, Maya turned and walked out of the office. The café suddenly felt like a stranger's place, foreign and cold. She walked back into the dining area, where the customers were still sitting, oblivious to what had just happened. The weight of her emotions threatened to overwhelm her, but she kept her head high. She had learned long ago that the world didn't stop for your pain, as she grabbed her things and prepared to leave. Maya's eyes fell on the small pendant around her neck. It was an old family heirloom, passed down from her grandmother. The pendant had always been a source of comfort, a reminder of her roots and the strength of the woman who had raised her. It was the one thing that had always given her the courage to keep going, no matter how tough things got. Maya clutched the pendant tightly in her hand, feeling the cool metal against her skin. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. "You are stronger than you think, Maya. Always remember that." With one final glance at the café, Maya walked out the door, the cool air hitting her face as she stepped onto the street. The world around her was bustling, oblivious to her pain. She took a deep breath, letting the crisp air fill her lungs. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: she wasn't going to give up. "She'll see, OULDN." Single quotes, her thoughts swirling. She passed a sleek black car parked along the curb. It was unlike anything she had seen in her neighborhood. Expensive, polished, and completely out of place. She didn't think much of it at first, until she heard a voice calling out to her, "Excuse me, Maya." Maya turned around, her heart racing. A man in the car was watching her. He appeared to be in his early 40s, with sharp features and an air of authority. He smiled as she turned to face him. "I'm Ethan Blackwood," he said, his voice deep and confident. "I couldn't help but notice something very interesting about you." Maya stood frozen, her thoughts a blur as she stared at the man in the car. Ethan Blackwood, she had never heard of him before. He was impeccably dressed in a well-tailored suit, his features sharp and defined. His posture suggested confidence, perhaps even authority. But what caught Maya's attention wasn't his appearance, it was the way he had noticed her, the way he had singled her out from the crowd. His eyes were calm but intense, studying her with an almost predatory curiosity. For a moment, Maya was unsure of what to do. She hadn't expected Denyon, especially a stranger like him, to approach her after being let go from her job. She was already feeling vulnerable, defeated, and now the last thing she wanted was to talk to a man she didn't know. But there was something about him, something that seemed different from the usual passerby. She had to admit there was an air of mystery about him, and the way he had called her name made her pause. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" she asked, her voice hesitant, but curious. Ethan smiled slightly, the hint of a knowing glimmer in his eyes. No, but I know you, Maya. His voice was deep, calm, and confident. But there was something else, something that made her want to listen. I've been watching you for a while now. You have a very rare quality. Maya raised an eyebrow, her mind racing. What was this man talking about? She didn't know him, and yet here he was, speaking to her as if they had some kind of connection. She looked around, noticing that the street was relatively empty, with only a few pedestrians passing by. She felt an uneasy knot form in her stomach. I don't understand, she said cautiously, still unsure of where this conversation was going. You've been watching me. Why? And how do you know my name? Ethan didn't seem to mind her questions. In fact, he seemed amused. I know a lot about you, Maya. Not in the way you might think, though. He paused for a moment before adding, I know you've been struggling. I know about the café, about your job, and the things you've had to sacrifice to keep going. Maya felt a wave of confusion rush over her. How did he know that? She hadn't told anyone outside of the café about her struggles, and it certainly wasn't something she shared openly. She instinctively reached for her pendant again, the cool metal offering a small measure of comfort. It was a reflex, something that had always calmed her when she felt unsettled. How do you know all this? She asked again, her voice trembling, with a mix of curiosity and unease. Ethan's gaze softened as he watched her, but his voice remained calm and measured. Let's just say I have an eye for detail. I see potential in people, and I see something in you, Maya, something that goes beyond what you've been through. He leaned forward slightly in his seat, his eyes never leaving hers. You've got resilience. You've got strength. That pendant, you wear it, tells a story, doesn't it? Maya's heart skipped a beat. How could he know about the pendant? It was a piece of jewelry she had worn for years, passed down from her grandmother. It held deep sentimental value, more than anyone could understand, but she had never shared its story with anyone. It was hers, a piece of her past, a part of her identity that no one else could touch. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, feeling a sudden rush of heat spread through her face. The pendant is just a family heirloom. It doesn't mean anything to anyone else. Ethan's smile never faltered, though his eyes were filled with a deeper understanding. That's not entirely true. That pendant is a symbol of strength, Maya. It's not just a piece of jewelry, it's something that ties you to a legacy, a family that fought for everything they had, and it's something that's been passed down to you for a reason. Maya felt a cold chill creep up her spine. His words were unsettling, but they also felt oddly comforting, like he understood her in a way no one else ever had. Still, she was cautious. She had learned long ago to trust only herself, to rely on her own abilities to make it through. Who was this man, and why was he talking to her like this? I don't know why you're saying all this, but I'm not interested in playing games, Maya replied, her voice firm despite the confusion that churned in her gut. I've had a tough day. I was fired from my job, and I don't have time for whatever it is you're trying to sell me. Ethan didn't seem put off by her bluntness. He leaned back in his seat, his expression thoughtful. I'm not trying to sell you anything, Maya. I'm offering you a chance to do something bigger. He paused before continuing, his tone shifting to something more serious. I've seen your potential. I've seen how you handled that situation at the café, how you remained composed even when everything seemed to fall apart. You have the power to do more than just survive, Maya. You can thrive. Maya's confusion deepened, and a mixture of skepticism and curiosity flooded her mind. "What are you talking about? What do you mean I can thrive?" she asked, her brow furrowing. Ethan smiled again, the look in his eyes intense and knowing. "I'm starting a project, something big, and I need someone like you, someone who has that rare combination of resilience and grace under pressure. I can offer you a position, a way out of this struggle." Maya stood there, processing his words. She was stunned. She had always felt like she was treading water, just trying to stay afloat. The thought of something more, something bigger, seemed almost too far out of reach. She didn't know if she could trust this stranger, but the offer hung in the air, dangling in front of her like a lifeline. She didn't know whether she should walk away or take the leap. She had been fired, humiliated, and was unsure of what came next. But Ethan's words stirred something deep inside her, flicker of hope. She hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. "What kind of project?" she asked, her voice quieter. Now, the weight of the situation settling on her shoulders. Ethan leaned forward again, his gaze unwavering. "Something that could change everything for you. But first, I need to know if you're ready for something more. If you're ready to stop just surviving and start living on your own terms." Maya looked at him, her mind racing. She had nothing left to lose. Perhaps this was the chance she had been waiting for, a way to finally break free from the cycle of struggle that had defined her life. But was she ready to take that step? Could she trust this stranger? Maya stood frozen, the weight of Ethan Blackwood's words hanging in the air like a thick fog. His offer was like a beacon, calling to her, but she wasn't sure whether to trust it. She had been fired just hours ago from the only job she had known for years. Her heart still ached from the sting of rejection. But in front of her now stood an opportunity, a chance to escape the cycle of struggle that had defined her life for so long. Could this be real? Could this man truly offer her a way out of the darkness? Ethan watched her intently, his calm demeanor unwavering. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, but she wasn't sure if she could trust him. Trust had always been something she guarded closely. She had been let down too many times in her life to let her guard down now. Yet, something about Ethan's presence made her hesitate. There was a quiet power in him, an assurance that made her wonder if he knew something she didn't. "You don't have to decide right now, Maya," Ethan said, as if reading her mind. "Take your time, but know that this is more than just an offer. It's a chance to reshape your life." Maya's fingers instinctively tightened around the pendant at her neck. It was a symbol of her strength, a reminder that she came from a family that had fought through hardship. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. "You are stronger than you think, Maya. Always remember that." Her grandmother had always been the one to show her that even in the most trying times, she had the strength to keep going. But this was different. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. This was a chance to thrive, to take control of her future and make something of herself. Maya took a deep breath, forcing her thoughts into focus. "What kind of project are you talking about?" she asked, her voice still unsure. "What does it involve?" Ethan smiled, a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. "It's a new venture, something innovative. It's about creating something from the ground up, building a team, and turning a vision into reality. I need someone who is resourceful, someone who can handle pressure and think on their feet. I've seen that in you." Maya looked down at her feet, her mind racing. She had always dreamed of something more, of breaking free from the endless cycle of dead-end jobs and uncertainty. But taking a step like this felt like diving into the unknown. She didn't know what Ethan's project entailed, and she didn't know if she could trust him. But she also knew that this might be the only chance she would ever get to change her life. "What makes you think I'm the right person for this?" she asked, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Ethan leaned back in his seat, his gaze never leaving her. "I've watched you, Maya. I've seen how you handled things at the cafe, how you didn't let the situation control you. You kept your head when everyone else panicked. You showed resilience, something most people don't have. That's why I'm offering this opportunity to you. You have potential, Maya. I can see it." Maya felt a flicker of hope. Could it be true? She had spent her whole life struggling, working hard just to make ends meet. Could she really be someone with potential, someone who could step out of this cycle and build something meaningful? She wasn't sure, but the idea of finally living a life where she didn't have to struggle so hard was intoxicating. "You're telling me I could be part of something big?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I could really have a chance to make something of myself?" Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with conviction. "Yes, but it's not just about what you can do for me, it's about what I can help you achieve. This isn't a handout, Maya. This is an opportunity for you to prove to yourself that you are capable of so much more than you think. I'm offering you the chance to take control of your life, to make choices that will shape your future." Maya's heart pounded in her chest. She had always dreamed of something bigger, but she had never thought it would come like this. She had always thought that success was something only for people with money, people with connections. She had never believed that someone like her could rise above her circumstances. But now, standing in front of this man who saw something in her that she had never recognized in herself, she felt a glimmer of possibility. Maybe she could break free from the cycle. Maybe she could finally take control of her life. "I don't know," she said, her voice trailing off. She wasn't sure if she was ready to take that leap. There was so much uncertainty in her future, and she wasn't sure if she was strong enough to take on something as big as what Ethan was suggesting. Ethan seemed to understand her hesitation. "I know it's a lot to take in, Maya, and I'm not asking you to make a decision right away, but think about it. This is a chance to finally stop struggling, to build a future you can be proud of." Maya stood there, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. She had always been the one to survive, to get by with what she had. But now, Ethan was offering her a chance to thrive, to step into a new world, a world of possibilities. But could she trust him? Could she trust herself? "I'll think about it," Maya said quietly, "but I don't know if I'm ready for something like this." Ethan smiled again, a knowing look in his eyes. "Take all the time you need. But remember, opportunities like this don't come around often. If you're ready to make a change, I'll be here." Maya nodded slowly, still unsure of what the future would hold, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like there was a glimmer of hope as she walked away from the car. Her heart was heavy with uncertainty. She didn't know what the future would look like, but for the first time in years, she felt like it was in her hands. She wasn't just surviving anymore. Maybe, just maybe, she was ready to live. The days that followed Ethan Blackwood's offer were a blur. Maya couldn't shake the memory of his words, the confidence in his voice, and the opportunity he had presented. She spent countless hours replaying that conversation in her head, torn between the comfort of her struggles and the unknown that Ethan was offering. The weight of her decision felt immense, and every time she tried to sleep, her thoughts raced with what-ifs and doubts. Her mind kept circling back to trust. She had been burned before by people who promised the world and then walked away. Her experiences had taught her to be cautious, to guard herself against disappointment. But the more she thought about Ethan's offer, the more she realized that this was different. He had seen something in her that she hadn't recognized in herself, and for the first time in a long while, Maya wondered if she was capable of more than just surviving. For the first time, she thought about what she could achieve if she took that leap. Could she leave behind the life she had known, the endless struggle, the constant fear of failure, and step into something greater? It had been a week since the conversation with Ethan, and Maya had made no progress. She was still stuck in her routine job, hunting, trying to piece together a future that seemed out of reach. Her thoughts drifted back to the pendant around her neck, her grandmother's gift, which had always been a reminder of her family's resilience. Her grandmother had overcome so much in her life, raising Maya after her parents died, working 2 jobs just to make sure Maya had everything she needed. Could Maya live up to that legacy? Could she be as strong as her grandmother had been? The question lingered in her mind as she walked through the familiar streets of her neighborhood, passing the same shops and buildings. Her feet led her toward the café she had worked at for so long. She didn't know why. Maybe it was habit, or the comfort of the familiar. But as she neared the café, something in her gut twisted. The once comforting sight of the small building now felt foreign, as though the place was a part of her past, a chapter she needed to close to move forward. Maya stopped outside the café and stared at the door. She could almost hear the laughter of customers, the clink of coffee cups, the steady hum of the espresso machine. But it wasn't the same anymore, not for her. She had spent so many hours here, given so much of herself, but now it felt like the place was holding her back. It was no longer her future. It was a reminder of the life she didn't want. She took a deep breath and walked away, her decision becoming clearer with each step. She couldn't stay stuck. She needed to change. That afternoon, as the sun began to set, Maya sat down at her small apartment, her laptop open in front of her. She hadn't checked her email in days, but now, as she scrolled through her inbox, her eyes landed on the email she had been waiting for. Ethan had sent her a follow-up message, just as he had promised. The subject line read, "The opportunity awaits." Maya's heart skipped a beat as she clicked open the email. "Maya, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to follow up on our conversation last week and give you the space you need to think it over. I understand this is a big decision, but I believe in your potential, and I'm here to help you take the next step. If you're ready to explore this opportunity further, I'd love to meet and discuss the details. Let me know when you're free and we can set something up. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Best, Ethan Blackwood." Maya read the email twice, the words sinking in. Was she ready? She had never been one to take risks, to step outside of her comfort zone. But she knew, deep down, that if she didn't make a change now, she would be stuck forever in the life she had always known, one filled with uncertainty, struggle, and fear. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and then typed her reply. "Ethan, thank you for following up. I've given it a lot of thought, and after everything that's happened recently, I feel like this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. I'm ready to meet and learn more about what you have in mind. Please let me know when would be a good time to meet. Looking forward to it, Maya." With a final click, Maya sent the email. It wasn't a perfect decision, but it was one she was ready to make. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew that this was her chance to do something different, to stop merely surviving and start living. The days that followed Maya's email felt like a whirlwind. The familiar world she had once known seemed distant, as if it was slipping through her fingers. She couldn't quite grasp it, couldn't hold on to it the way she once did. Everything was changing: her job, her life, her future. And while the unknown terrified her, it also ignited a spark of hope she hadn't felt in years. The meeting with Ethan Blackwood was set for Thursday afternoon, just 3 days after she had sent the email. Maya had barely slept the night before, her mind racing with possibilities. She had tried to picture what the meeting would be like, but she wasn't sure what to expect. She had never taken a leap like this before. It felt like she was about to step into a new life, a new world entirely. The morning of the meeting, Maya stood in front of her mirror, adjusting her clothes for what felt like the 100th time. She didn't own anything fancy, but she had chosen a simple, professional outfit: black slacks and a white blouse, something that felt polished but still true to who she was. She ran a hand through her hair, took one last deep breath, and grabbed her purse. Today would be the day she would decide whether she could trust Ethan and take a chance on herself. As she stepped out of her apartment, the cool breeze greeted her, and for the first time in a while, she felt like she was heading somewhere important. The weight of the uncertainty still lingered, but it was overshadowed by the excitement that buzzed just beneath the surface. This was her chance. She wasn't going to waste it. The cafe where the meeting was set to take place was on the edge of town, in a part of the city Maya had never ventured into before. As she walked inside, she immediately noticed the contrast between the cafe and the small, familiar one where she had worked for years. The atmosphere here was sophisticated. Wooden tables, soft ambient lighting, and the quiet hum of conversation. It was the kind of place where ideas were exchanged, where deals were made, and where success seemed within arm's reach. Maya's eyes scanned the room, and she spotted Ethan sitting at a corner table, his back straight, his gaze focused on a tablet in front of him. He was dressed in a well-tailored suit, looking every bit the successful businessman he claimed to be. Maya took a deep breath and walked over to him, her nerves suddenly returning in full force. But as soon as Ethan looked up, he gave her a warm, reassuring smile that eased her tension. "Maya, it's good to see you." His voice was calm and welcoming, making her feel at ease despite the nervousness she felt. "Please, have a seat. I hope you found the place okay." "I did, thank you," Maya replied, sitting down across from him. She couldn't help but feel out of place here, in this refined setting. But she reminded herself that she was here for a reason. She had to be confident. Ethan set his tablet down and folded his hands in front of him, looking at her with interest. "I'm glad you came. I know this isn't easy, but I believe in you, Maya. I think you're the right person for what I have in mind." Maya nodded, trying to steady her nerves. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said about the opportunity. I'm not sure what to expect." Ethan's smile deepened, and he leaned forward slightly, his eyes focused. "I understand, this is a big decision, but I want to assure you that you're not alone in this. I'm here to guide you every step of the way." Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. His words were comforting, but more than that, they gave her a sense of reassurance. She had been questioning herself for days, unsure if she was capable of handling the responsibility of stepping into something that could change the course of her life. But hearing Ethan's confidence in her gave her a newfound sense of belief in herself. "What exactly is this opportunity?" she asked, her voice steady despite the flutter of excitement in her chest. "What do you need from me?" Ethan sat back in his chair, his eyes lighting up with a spark of passion. It's a project I've been working on for the last year. It's about revolutionizing the way we think about community-driven businesses. We're building something that not only helps people achieve financial independence, but also empowers them to create lasting change in their communities. It's a combination of tech, entrepreneurship, and social impact. Maya listened intently as he spoke, her heart racing. It sounded like something out of her wildest dreams. She had always wanted to do something meaningful, something that would make a difference in the world. But she had never imagined she would be offered a chance to be part of something this ambitious, this impactful. And where do I fit into all of this? Maya asked, still processing the enormity of what he was. Describing, "You're the perfect fit, Maya." Ethan's tone was confident, but there was also a quiet sincerity in his words. Your resilience, your ability to stay calm under pressure, those are the qualities we need. I want you to be a part of the leadership team. We need someone who understands the value of hard work, who isn't afraid to roll up their sleeves and get involved. Maya's eyes widened. Leadership team. She had never imagined herself in a position like that. She had always been the one following orders, the one doing the work in the background. But the thought of being at the forefront of something that could change lives, her life and others, was exhilarating. "Are you serious?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You want me to be a leader in this project?" Ethan nodded, his gaze unwavering. "I've seen something in you, Maya. I know you have the potential to do this. I wouldn't offer you this if I didn't believe in you." For the first time in a long while, Maya felt the weight of her begin to lift. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the chance to prove to herself that she was capable of more than just surviving. She could thrive, she could lead, and most importantly, she could finally take control of her future. With a deep breath, Maya looked Ethan in the eyes and made her decision. "I'm in," she said, her voice steady and sure. "I'm ready to take that step." Ethan smiled, a look of genuine pride in his eyes. "Welcome aboard, Maya. This is the beginning of something amazing." As the conversation continued, Maya felt a sense of clarity she hadn't felt in years. She was no longer lost in a world of uncertainty. She was ready for the future, ready to embrace the opportunity that had been offered to her. And for the first time in a long time, Maya believed in herself.